So have you ever heard that China devalues their currency? In this video, I want to explain to you guys what exactly that means, why they do that, and why it's strategically such a very interesting move, right? So I'm American, right? And so the perspective, for a long time globally, right? You look at the dollar being the reserve currency around the world, America being the largest military superpower around the world, right? And what we've seen play out over the last 20 years and even further, right, is China is obviously knocking on the door of the US, right? You see China expanding its military, you see China expanding its influence, and even doing a lot of the things around the world that the US has done in other countries, like going into countries that need a loan to build things like, let's just say, a giant well and water system, so that city and that town within those countries, is able to get water for all of its people, or roads, or electricity. And what they do is, right, they'll structure those deals in a way that makes it extremely difficult for those countries to actually ever pay back that loan, with the hopes that they will then take over, right, that resource, and then essentially they sort of own that country, right? So it is a way of pretending like, hey, I'm here to help, and then really, I want to leave with all the money in your wallet. So what China's doing in terms of devaluing its currency, and why they were labeled a currency manipulator, despite, sure, they've been labeled that, but what does that really mean, right? So what China's done is, instead of allowing their currency to continue to grow in value against something like the US dollar, China's actually gone the opposite way. And at first glance, somebody would see this and go, well, why would they do that? Why wouldn't they just want their currency to be the strongest no matter what? How does it make any sense? And so it's the same way, I think, in an analogy, when you look at a company like Uber, right, who is okay just losing money for a while, right, with the goal of doing what? Growing their market share, right? And so in my opinion, I think that's a really apt analogy for what's going on with China, right? So what they'll do is they will devalue their currency so that it's a no-brainer for people who are like, well, I've got dollars, I need to buy these products. I just became richer relative to the Chinese currency from the people that I'm going to be buying these products from, so I can buy more products, right? So what that does is it allows more and more global business to go to China and go, man, that's where I'm going to get the cheapest products. Like, I've got to go buy there, right? On the other hand, what it also does is it makes the currency, right, for some individuals in China holding the currency weaker, so that they'll go, well, man, like, why would I, go ahead and try to go spend that money outside of China to go buy something else, right? It's going to cost me more. I'm going to buy here at home, right? And so this is a great way to explain it here. They said a weaker currency has also made China's imports costlier, thus spurring the production of substitute products at home to aid domestic companies, right? So this is a really tricky, sinister move, in my opinion, right? It's actually genius. But it is scary for the rest of the world, right? You look at a lot of the U.S.'s dependencies, right, when it comes to pharmaceutical drugs, and just, almost products in almost any, or pieces and parts of almost any product you can imagine, right? Countries around the world are importing those products from China, and so China's systematically done this, again, to grow their market share and grow the world's dependency on China, for the need to actually want to buy goods from China, so that they have a dependency on them. Because what does that do when you have a dependency on China? It gives them leverage, right? And the way that they're thinking about things as a country, and the way that they operate, in terms of the Communist Chinese Party, which sort of operates like a mafia within the country. Imagine if the mafia in the U.S. back in the day also had control of the Federal Reserve, right? That's kind of what you're dealing with the Chinese Communist Party within China. And going back historically, looking at it, right, China used to have multiple parties that really had a chance of sort of getting in and taking over and being in control of the country. And what they did was they demonized and systematically, sort of turned people against opposing parties in their country in a number of ways, right? Through the media, and demonizing and painting people in that other party as as being radical or evil or crazy, and so that they can again come into power as a singular party and just remain in power, right? Because once you do that, who's the opposition? No problem. It's just that one party running things, and there's no real opponent to deal with in terms of, there's no risk at potentially losing power. So this is a really, really interesting move that I recommend. If you're somebody who is an investor, you're somebody who just wants to learn more and understand economics in the world, there's so much to talk about with this. But again, like I think the world, right, I think has opened up over the last couple years to really understand, like, wow, what is China really trying to do here, right? And obviously, it's their prerogative as a country to be able to want better for their country, right? To try to assert dominance and get business advantages and military advantages over other countries around the world. But obviously, again, when you're dealing with a system where you have one party and people don't get to vote, you're dealing with something very different, right? There's no checks and balances within that system at all that can really rein that in. And so that I think is really, one of the interesting fights of our time in many ways, right? Is how is that going to play out, right? How is communism going to fare against democracy, republics and capitalism around the world, right? How does that play out? So I hope this video was informative for you guys on understanding why China devalues their currency. If you guys want more content like this, comment below for me, smash the like button and let me know, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Thanks.